Thank you very much. And as you can see, we have a very diverse and exciting group of companies. So we're going to jump right in, and we have had in our front row our first group of investors and CEOs, advisors, 4 of them. We have been watching this group, and we're going to ask them to go ahead and make their way to the stage, if you will. And I'm going to just read their names. You have bios in your information, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on introductions, but Michael Goldstein, Accelerator. Jim Hunt, Blue Venture Investors. Hi, Jim. Alexis Junia, Kerbeb Networks. Severtodia, Edison Ventures. Wonderful, thank you. And we're going to ask 3 questions here. We have actually, to make this and kick it off with a little fun way, we've asked each of these panelists, if you will, to actually make an independent vote, their own assessment on 3 specific, really, things. One is around the presentation of the company, the other which has the best business model and the most experienced business team. So I put these up there so you all can see this. So what we've asked each of them to do is already make their numbers. We get everybody wired up here. And we're going to go through these questions and have each one tell the name, so you can't change it. You have to have the one that there's no collaboration. It's all together. So of this last 9 companies, let's see if we're going to have each one of you. The first question, I'm going to go forward and see if we've got, which company presented the strongest business model? All right, so we're going to give you guys a minute or 2. Are you guys ready for this? Or have you got an assessment already? I'm just going to get a nod from everybody. They're ready to start these questions. You've done your calculations. Do I need to give you a few more minutes? Everybody good? Let's take one question. I'm going to start here with you, Michael. Which company was on your list?
Encore, I thought, did a fantastic job with the business model. It was clear. He had market validation. It just made a ton of sense. He gave a good explanation. You just want the company name? That's it?
That's it? But that's great.
Like.
No, right. That's okay. That's all right. So Encore for one. Sever?
Aquacore for me.
Aquacore it is. And we'll come back and elaborate. Michael's already let us off there, which is terrific.
I think Naya.
Okay, very good. Jim?
Aquacore.
Aquacore, very good. All right, well, we're going to come back to that. So you can see, just by one question alone, we've got a diverse set of opinions here, but that's good. We're going to dig back a little further into that. And actually, maybe why don't we take a moment now and start with this, since Michael led us off on that. Let's talk a little bit about perhaps what were some of the attributes around what it was you thought caught your eye. Sever, you want to expand a little on your?
Yeah, sure. So we invest in enterprise software, and we happen to have a couple investments actually related to this area that Aquacore is after, and I think we've met before. But I think the business model here was attractive because the problem, so facilities management in general is way behind the curve in adopting all kinds of information integration, information aggregation, and analytics. And the area that Aquacore is after is very much in demand.
Okay. Next up.
Hi. So I guess with one of the things I had noticed is that not all that many presentations spoke about their business model, and so that sort of narrowed the pool initially to who actually gave information about their business model. And in fact, I think one of the things I noted was that while people spoke about what their revenue model was, not that many people gave any information about their expense side, and I recognize in 4 minutes it's very hard to do that. So I picked Naya because I felt like it was a straightforward business model. I might have questions about the price, but I don't have all that much experience in the relative pricing of anything in the competition, so I felt like it was a good explanation of what they do, and I could understand it, and it was straightforward.
And this is one of our more difficult questions from just a 4-minute pitch, but I think that's an important distinction, which is what's missing also is as important as to what one presents. So for those of you who are thinking about and putting together presentations, obviously looking to see what anyone would have wanted to hear from you is also just as important. Jim?
First, I want to say that the 4-minute pitch does no. In 48 hours of due diligence, I make mistakes all the time, so please bear that in mind. Second, I'd love to actually merge a couple of the companies that were out here presented. I think we can come up with a pretty interesting combined business model. With that said, I've looked at this space, the space that Logan presented with Aquacore as well, and do believe that there is a market where there's real people that will buy the service. I think there's lots of questions about price point and exactly how do you get to the market effectively, but I thought he articulated that quite well.
Wonderful. And Jim raised a very good point we'll address here for a moment, too. We all know that 4 minutes is just not even scratching the surface. Our idea behind it, much like we know we're only going to get just to scratch the surface with these esteemed panelists we have today and the next set later this afternoon, this is to give an opportunity for one and each of you all to see each other, know who you are, get just an interest level, get the dialogue going, if you will, to know that we can actually communicate and you all can do some subsequent conversations, we hope. Next question up. This is the easiest one, I think, in some ways, because we all participated in this. Who might have the best overall presentation format? I'm going to start on the other end, Jim, so I'm going to give you a heads up here. I'm going to go with you first.
So I very much like the pin booster presentation. I thought it was very clean. I thought you did a great job of articulating what your value proposition is, and I liked in general the way you used your 4 minutes. So I thought that was a good job.
Very good.
I would echo that. I thought Pin Booster was terrific, and it was a great way to kick off the whole presentation. The pacing, I think you went over all the important topic areas in a short period of time, and it was just really well executed.
For me, it was Encore, close call versus Pin Booster, but Encore did a good job overall.
Very good.
I actually thought AquaCore, some of the other panelists have industry knowledge of what they do, but I really know nothing about the space and left it with a really clear understanding of the space. I thought it was a great presentation.
Very good. Very good. I hope you all are thinking the same questions in terms of which one you would have picked and to see how different and why you would have selected what you've selected. Next question up. From your very brief 4 minutes, who gave you the sense, who had the best domain experience or team experience, and who communicated that best to you? I'm going to start in the middle this go round. Alexis, you want to start off?
Sure. I thought Tiffany at CTBMI, I thought was fantastic. I thought immediately you understood that there was a problem, and she had a lot of experience in being in the market with the problem, and she also went through and actually spoke about her team. I'd say that was another thing that some of the presentations didn't touch on was team. So I thought Tiffany did a great job and really gave me the sense that she would be a very effective leader of trying to solve a problem like that.
On my end, Facility 3D, the getting the band back together comment is an important one and is a proof to future success.
Very good. Michael?
CTB, I also echo those sentiments.
Jim?
I had a tie between Facility 3D and Tiffany. I thought they both did a great job.
Terrific. Okay. So how's everybody stacking up? Okay, so we're going to leave with that question for a moment. Just to remind you all, you've got the same questions. There's actually a fourth question on here that we'd asked the judges to look at. I'll raise that now. Maybe that'll lead us into some discussion. We're probably not going to use that question as much, only because the question, so you all know, which company has the best market opportunity. And the feedback we'd received from our panelists, the last TechBUZZ, was that that's such a difficult question to judge, so we won't put them on the spot for that. But I will ask the question, are there things you would encourage, or what elements would you like to see for companies who are trying to communicate about market opportunity? So what are the things perhaps, and maybe we'll go down, and this is where we want to get into a discussion with our investors, and we've asked them really to kind of cut to the meat of some of the things so they can impart as much information and their perspectives as they can in our limited time. So, Michael, may we start with you on that one again?
Sure. I thought that giving real feedback from customers is obviously the best way to see what the market thinks. Encore did that with the NASA example. And I have personal knowledge just through an event series we run called Switch Pitch that there's a need for that. So that really resonated with me. And there were a few others that gave examples of specific clients and client feedback about their solution, which how do you argue with that?
Very good. Anybody else? Jim?
So I guess I viewed this a little bit differently in the sense that I looked at it from the standpoint of how large and how growing and how fast the markets were maturing. And I thought that both Caprica and Firejack address very, very well-known, fast-growing, and obviously hot topical markets. So I think that in many ways what they're doing in that space is possibly, and I don't want to comment on whether they can get there or not, but I think that those are areas where we're going to see great growth. There happen to be two areas I understand fairly well.
So it got your attention as an investor that had some credibility on that front of it. All right. Sever?
So I agree with both those comments. In addition to that, I'd say describing quickly how you get to market, right? Because it's easy to describe big markets where you end up whaling the ocean, but more importantly, in the near term is how do you enter? What's your bowling pin strategy? What's the first segment? What's the second segment? Do you have channel partners, et cetera? That's very important for us. I also agree, Caprica, I think, has got a big market opportunity in front of itself. Security has, over 50 years, Jim will tell you, has been a great market.
Great. Well, that couldn't have asked for a better segue. So we just talked about security, and Sever on our panel referenced Jim and has a background in security. So I'm going to use this moment to just talk a little bit about the fact that we have such a diversification among our panelists. They come today we've got Michael, we've got angel investors who are also running things that are entrepreneurs and accelerators in the marketplace. We have Sever, who's from an institutional fund. We have Alexis, who's done many, many things, both on the operations side as well and development. And we have Jim, obviously, with technology background and in the security space, and also here and teaching here, lecturing here at Georgetown. All of them with unique different perspectives and industry sectors. So that's what's sort of universal here in terms of they're coming from different industry perspectives, and they all are seeing some similarities around things that they actually are looking for as well from best presentations. So I'm going to start with Jim again to come down, and perhaps are there some things that you would say, and I'll let you guys jump in, do a little free form on some things you'd like to impart for this group. But are there some ideas and suggestions or observations that you could advise for entrepreneurs seeking funding today from what you're seeing outside of today's session?
Well, I guess there's a couple things. One is when I view reviewing a business plan, I look at it with really 5 perspectives. The product, the market, how are you going to get to market, what is your team, your history and team, and your valuation. Obviously, you couldn't touch on some of those in a 4-minute pitch, but I thought some of the teams did a very good job of giving us a feeling for the experience they already have in the market. Doug, for example, with Caprica, talking about the fact that he was able to leverage funding from DARPA, to me is a very big deal. It certainly helps you get to market with your product and not have to spend all the equity money on something like that. I also think that it's very hard to get a real feel till we know what you want to raise, but it's hard to get an understanding of what the valuations might be, et cetera. So, and that's very hard to do it, and I'm not sure I would do it in a forum like this, but but certainly you sit around as a judge and you're going, well, it's interesting he wants to raise X, but what does that really mean in the scope of return on investment? So those are just a few of the kind of high-level things that I'd probably think of.
Okay, Alexis?
Sure, I just had, I guess, maybe an observation or two from today's presentations and then some from my general experience. I think one of the things I really liked today was in Jim's presentation with Encore, where he showed the examples of what the competition was in the marketplace, sort of those screens of a lot of very complex information. And I felt that was a great, essentially showing the problem that your product is solving in a very simple fashion. I thought was very effective for me in watching it. I think another thing that I noticed across the presentations was the presenters who very succinctly could explain what their product or service did very simply at the beginning of the presentation stuck with me probably better. And then shifting gears for a minute from having been on the side where I myself have been out and attempting to raise money, just a comment about there's a lot of public attention, of course, and press about folks who go out and raise money from big name venture funds, and that's terrific. I think one of the things that it's important to think about is the profile of from whom you're trying to raise money as tied into your own profile of what you're trying to do with the company. Of course, both related to the advice and counsel you might seek as the people who may end up eventually being on your board, as in terms of your exit and sort of timeline of your company, and just thinking about aligning yourselves with that, it's something to think about. And then the last thing I'll say is, as it relates to my own experience, is that in starting my own company, I worked for 3 years. We sort of called it an aggressive hobby for 3 years before we raised capital, and I think that went a long way toward getting past a lot of the proof of concepts, and also working with the team before actually going out and sort of marketing that. So just a couple quick points on both today's presentations and some from my own experience.
We appreciate that. And again, our panelists have been terrific because they're trying to impart for all of us in the room, in addition to those on the stage, but everyone really trying to build an enterprise. Sever, got any?
I'll make a couple of comments about sort of the environment. So I think the early stage fundraising environment's changed dramatically and has sort of come back in the last 3 or 4 years here locally in a very, very meaningful and sustainable way. So all your entrepreneurs out there looking to start something, don't give up. Keep going, keep pushing hard. You will find your potential investor and raise some money. At times it seems like it's an impossible task, and it feels like you can't reach the right folks. But the accessibility of capital is much better today than it was 3 years ago, or even 6 or 7 years ago. As far as the presentations go, I agree with a lot of the comments made here. For us, we try to boil things down into a couple of big buckets. We invest behind large markets and the people, right? It's really markets and people that drive success and returns. The next thing for us is really unique products that have very high ROI and are very important to their customers. So to the extent that you tell your story, always try to tell a story from the customer's perspective. That is always very credible, and you can repeat it, and it won't get stale at all, because all of us on this side of the table want to hear about your customer success.
I mean, whether someone can buy it or not. We've got an audience for it. Michael, you come at it a different way too, from a lot of accelerator, and Michael represents, we're pleased to have a lot of you in the community who are really behind, really helping companies sort of grow, so happy to get your perspective.
Well, just to piggyback on what Sever said, the value creation element, I think, is something that you can't reiterate enough to show that you've created value. You heard Ted Leonis refer to multiple times creating value, how much value was created, and like that's how the businesses, big business like that is measured, and that's how I think a lot of these startups who have early data points can convey the importance of what they're creating. You're ultimately looking to the jockey, the person that's running it, to scale the thing. So if I see examples of doing more with less, that to me is huge. You saw that in a lot of the presentations today, where with very limited funding, with with not a lot of resources, a lot has been accomplished. And there's a lot of reasons, I think, for that, just in technology costs and other reasons, but most of it has to do with the perseverance of the entrepreneur that can make that happen. And that speaks a lot to me, to who's going to ultimately grow this thing and have an exit. I like to see distribution partnerships. You saw some of that. You saw Car to Drive, or Car to Drive, C2G. Say that at the end with AARP and that distribution partnership. I mean, that to me is a huge market validator. He's been at that for a while, and that came through, and that was a big deal. And then just the whole lean concept. You heard, I think the phone security say, we're not in the hardware business. There's a definite wanting to stay away from high cost overhead. So the more lean that you can show, I think the more impressive that is.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to go back through and let each of them leave you with a parting comment. Hard to believe this panel is already over, but those are great comments. So I'm going to have each of you, if you could just boil it down to 10 or 15 seconds of some comment you'd like to leave with these entrepreneurs you've heard from and those in the audience who are out there doing the tough work of building an enterprise. And Jim, I'm going to start with you, and then when we release our panelists, we're going to have a special surprise, and we're going to pick from a hat from the guards and have a 1-minute fast pitch from someone in the audience. Okay.
So I guess as an angel with a very narrow wingspan, unlike perhaps Ted, the two important things to me are friction to get to the market and capital efficiency. In 2,000 business plans or so that I've looked at, I've only seen 3 that made their first and second year projections. And I was so stupid I didn't invest in 2 of them. So that's my parting shot.
Okay. Alex?
I'll say something specifically related to this. I think one of the things that we probably all see from a presentation like this is how important your ability to present and speak succinctly and coherently about your company. Sometimes as the entrepreneur and the founder, you're so in the weeds that it's hard to, and you feel the problem or the issue so intently, sometimes it's hard to step back and summarize and be succinct about the opportunity. And I think the time that you spend honing and preparing to have those types of conversations, whether it's a 4-minute conversation or whether it's a 30-minute one-on-one, I think can go a long way. I say that both from listening to the presentations here as well as being on the other side of having to pitch my own company. I think when it's humming and you're a better presenter, I think it can go a long way in getting to funding.
My comment would be go big or go home. I think all of the companies that are presented here today have that sort of power behind them, and they some of them express that very well today. But I'll leave it with that.
Great. Michael, one thought?
Keep things simple. You may be in the weeds. You may have, you're encountering hardships every day with growing your company. But when you can come in as a breath of fresh air and keep things simple, and this is the first time that most people are seeing your business, and when you see it, and when there's a freshness to it, and it just looks exciting, that is really, I think, contagious.
Very good. Well, before I release our investors and analysts and advisors, thank you all very much. We're going to have a round of applause, but I'm going to pass this down. Yes, thank you. Pass this and we'll let the lady on the panel draw, and we're just wait before we make a break. We're going to draw one company. Just one of you pick one. Just one. We only need one. All right. You want to read them out? Which one?
Yeah, Light Path Apps.
Light Path Apps. Are you here? CEO here? Okay, so as you're making your way down, we're giving them 1 minute. This is an impromptu, thank you very much, an impromptu fast pitch. So this is a real test of courage and see how you do. All right, and you get 1 minute on the timer, and then we'll take a break.
See if we can do it. Hi, I'm Charles Moore. My company is called Light Path Apps. I want to tell you a story about one of my good friends, Martha. She is the most functional person I know. So she went to Penn, she's a Golden McKinsey alum, and she just gets everything done. And then 3 years ago, last February, her husband died very suddenly of a heart issue. And then everything fell apart. And she was the most dysfunctional person you can imagine. And the problem when someone dies is you have all these things that come up. If you think dealing with Verizon's hard now, try doing it on someone else's behalf when you have all this grief. And so Martha and I got together, and we decided we wanted to do something about it. So we built 2 tools. One is Light After Loss, helping people deal with the death of a loved one. And the other is Light Path Ahead, helping people be proactive about estate planning. What we do is there's a ton of insurance every year bought, $270 billion, after the death of a loved one. We help insurers with that. Employers, if you did everything you needed to do, no lunch breaks, no Gmail breaks, it would take you 2 weeks of working hours in the middle of the day to handle everything. We'll help employers solve that. And then, all of us, we just need to be more proactive about these things. And a lot of the benefit we provide is helping people get through the inertia of not planning and the anxiety and hours of effort when you have a loss of a loved one. So if you want to help, want to be involved, we're raising money, please come see me. Charles Moore. Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. So that's wonderful. So thank you, Charles. You get the Courageous Award today, and he's eligible to come back again on stage and give 4 minutes. So that was terrific. I don't know how you managed that in just that little bit of time. So we're going to take a quick break, demos for those who are presenting out front, and we'll see you back in about 10 minutes, I think.